We're often asked, what can I expect to see if I come diving in Key Largo with Sea Dwellers Dive Center? And so I put a couple of videos together here just to show you the things that I saw when I was diving on Saturday with Sea Dwellers. We're diving here on the north end of Molasses Reef, and pretty much any of the dive sites that Sea Dwellers go to, you can guarantee to see a lot of schooling fish. Under most of the ledges, you'll see schools of grunts and snapper and a few porkfish. And because the sanctuary has been protected for nearly 50 years now, these fish are relatively unafraid and will let you get pretty close to them to either look at them or photograph them. Some fish will be out in the open more, like this trunkfish, and although he's out in the open, he is pretty shy and you'll have some difficulty getting close to them. Other fish will hide. This stingray is hiding underneath the sand, keeping away from predators. Since they've been starting to be protected a bit more from fishermen outside the special preservation area, we're starting to see more and larger groupers. Here's a Nassau grouper just swinging by. Really pretty animal. The north end of the reef, you may well see some wreckage, which is the wreckage, it's called the railway wreck, and you'll see railway wheels and railway lines covered in coral. Been down there for well over 100 years now, and it's wreckage from a barge that was carrying stuff for Flagler when they were building the railway. Also on the north end of the reef, you'll see some elkhorn coral. Elkhorn coral is very pretty but very brittle, and we've been lucky recently that for the last several years we haven't had any major storms, so that the elkhorn corals had a chance to grow back and is now quite healthy and looking good. One of the good things is it does regenerate quickly, so in the last 5 or 6 years had a chance to grow quite well. The north end of the reef was also the site of a grounding with a boat called the Wellwood, and part of the rehabilitation, the federal government allowed the Coral Reef Restoration Foundation to plant staghorn coral to rebuild the coral population in this area. And as you can see, it's taking off and looking pretty healthy. The work of the Coral Reef Restoration people is definitely helping save the top end of Molasses Reef. This particular mooring ball is a place where you often see a big barracuda hanging right by the mooring line, and he was there again on Saturday. And just keeping an eye on things and watching Jeremy, one of Sea Dwellers' instructors, leading his band of open water students. And here you can see that he's keeping a close eye on them and the barracuda, and having them tell him how much air they've got left in their tank. So there they are telling him. It's ideal. Key Largo is an ideal place to learn to scuba dive. You can see it's relatively shallow, no current, good visibility. This stoplight parrotfish was sitting there, and I went over to see why he was just leaning against the reef, and he was actually being cleaned by this banded coral shrimp. You can see his whiskers, and he's one of the cleaners on the reef, and the fish will come up there, lay up close, and he'll use his pincers to remove debris and stuff off of their skin, keep them healthy. The last thing I saw on the first dive was some angelfish. This is a queen angel, and it's probably one of the brightest of the fish we see on the reef. It's called a queen angel because just on the middle of its forehead there's a dark ring which looks like a crown. So that's where it gets its name from. In addition to the queen angel, also saw a French angelfish. French angels are black and yellow and have a yellow ring around their eyes. And if you don't, if you approach carefully, they're relatively unafraid. But anyway, that was the end of the first dive, and then we went down to the other end of the reef for our second dive. But I'll tell you about that in the next movie.